Welcome to lesson 3 on 3 sets problem. Now in the previous lesson, which was lesson 2, I gave a trial example or a trial question. So I've decided to solve it in this lesson. Then we look at a few other things. Then we call 3 sets problem done. Alright, so let's move into it. It says in a survey of 200 outpatients who reported at a hospital one day, it was found that 100 complained of malaria, 80 had toothache, and 50 were injured. All the 200 patients had one or other of these complaints, and 26 had exactly 2 of them. How many patients had all 3 complaints? This very part is important. 26 had exactly 2 of them. Everything is important, but if you are not able to identify the 26, you are going to mess up. Right now, in the previous video, which is lesson 2, we looked at only 1, which is the same as exactly 1. We looked at only 2, which is the same as exactly 2. Where to put them, right? So first, like I've said, you get your universal first, you get your circles next, you get your intersection of all, okay, next, as it follows. So let's move into it. So we are saying that the first thing is to get our universal, right? So I've decided to bring my data over here. The data is also very much important when you want to solve any question. The first thing is to bring your data. So let U represent the total number of patients, which is 200. Then M should represent number of people who complained of malaria, or number of patients who complained of malaria. This implies that number of M equals 100. Then T represents those who had toothache, so that is 80. I should represent those who were injured, which is 50. Then 26 had exactly 2 of the complaints. 26 had exactly 2 of the complaints. That is number of M intersection I intersection T complements. Okay, that is going to be M intersection. So this is number of M intersection I intersection T complement, meaning we have removed T. Okay, so because T has been removed, we are left with M and I only. So that is M intersection I only. All right, then union M intersection I complement intersection T, meaning I has been removed. That is, we are left with M and T only. All right, then we have number of M complement intersection I intersection T. So M has been removed. We are left with I and T only. And we are saying that is 26. All right. So if you have forgotten this one, you can go back to the first lesson, which we looked at how it goes. Okay. So it is already shown in the first lesson 1 on 3 sets problem. I will try to link it in the description of this very video. All right, so let's move on. Now that we have our data, let's first get our Venn diagram. Yes, you were not given the intersection of all, which is what we are finding. Okay, so we let any variable represent. So we are letting X represent number of M intersection I intersection T, which is the intersection of all. We are saying X should represent. All right, so our universal is 200, which you have already identified. After you have identified our universal, the next thing is to identify our circles. So we identify this circle, that circle, and the other circle. So were we given? Yes. we were given number of M, which is 100. Those who complained of malaria or those who had malaria, they were 100. And then those who had toothache, number of T, which is 80. Then those who were injured were 50. Number of patients who were injured were 50. All right, so now that we have been able to identify each of the circles, we are going to look at the intersection of all, right? The intersection of all, which we don't know. So we are saying X should represent the intersection of all, or those who complained of all the three problems, or those who complain of all the three disorders, right? So we have our X. The next thing is to get our both, okay, to get our both. But the question didn't give us those sides. What the question did was, it said 26 complained of or had exactly 2. Exactly 2. In the previous lesson, which is lesson 2, if you have not watched it, make sure you go back to watch lesson 2, which I will link in the description below. All right, so it says that 26 had exactly 2. In the previous lesson, which is lesson 2, we said this side is exactly 2, this is also exactly 2, this is also exactly 2. So when you are asked to find those who complained of exactly 2, meaning add this region to this region and that region. So when you add the 3 regions, you are going to get those who complained of exactly 2. I'm taking it again. If you add this region to this region to that region, you are going to get those who complained of exactly 2. But over here, the question has not given us the individual regions. We don't know this region, neither do we know this region nor that region. But the question is making us aware that 26 had exactly 2. Meaning when I add this and that, I should get 26. We are saying that exactly 2 means pick these regions and add them. That is exactly 2. When you pick those regions and you add them, you get exactly 2. Similarly, which is not said here, but let me go in there. When I say exactly 1, it has already been addressed in lesson 2. Exactly 1 means pick this region alone, this region alone, this region alone, add them, and that gives you exactly 1 or only 1. The exactly is the same as only. All right. So if this side plus this side plus this side is 26, how do we do it? Do we put 26 in all 3 regions? You write 26 here, 26 here, and 26 here. Is that the case? Ask yourself. That is a big no. It is a big no because we are saying when we add the 3 regions, they should give us 26. But if we should put 26 in each of the 3 regions, we are going to get more than 26. We are saying when you add the 3 regions, you should get 26. Those are the exactly 2. The question is saying 26 complain of exactly 2. Meaning if you add the 3 regions, you are going to get 26. So now that we don't know, yes, so meaning we are supposed to share 26 for these 3 regions. But which number should we put where? So what we do is we put alphabets or letters or variables in those regions, and then we add them, equate to 26. So I can say this side should be M, this side should be N, this side should be O, which I don't advise you use O. So M plus N plus O should be equal to 26. If I use A, B, C2, it will mean A plus B plus C should be equal to 26. Bear in mind, right? Okay, so that is what we are supposed to look at next. the question is saying 26 had exactly 2, but we don't know the value of each of the regions. Okay, each of the regions. So we put variables in there, then we equate to 26 when solving. Now that we have exactly 2, we are supposed to look at our onlys, okay, our only ones, exactly ones. How do we get it? We are saying that, so let's take the M, the circle for M, malaria, okay, circle for malaria. We are saying that the whole circle for malaria is 100. If that is the case, and then we have B, X, and A, it means only malaria, only this side I am shading, should be 100 minus what we see in here. Okay, so 100 minus A plus B plus X. Okay, that should be it. All right, so similarly, when I come to the circle for toothache, the circle for toothache is 80. So to get only toothache, I get 80 minus the 3 things I see here. So 80 minus B plus C plus X. Or you can write 80 minus B minus C minus X, because if I am writing, it's going to be 80 minus B plus C plus X. Okay, so the negative is affecting everything. So it's the same as 80 minus B minus C minus X. It can be arranged anywhere. X can come before B or C. All right, same applies to the circle for injury. So now let's move on. So only malaria is going to be 100 minus, into parentheses, A plus B plus X, which is the same as 100 minus A minus B minus X. All right, so 100 minus A minus B minus X. Mind you, I said is the same as 100 minus whatever we see in the A, B, and X, A plus B plus X. The negative here affects everything here. So negative times positive A is negative A. Negative times positive B is negative B. And then negative times positive X is negative X. All right. So I believe you can predict the next two. Only T is going to be 80 minus B minus C minus X. Right. And then injury, predict it. Exactly. You got it right. That is going to be 50 minus A minus C minus X. Whichever way you arrange it, X can come before C or A. But it's advisable you arrange it in alphabetical order. Okay. All right. So now this is our complete Venn diagram. Our complete Venn diagram. Now what is left is to find our X. The question says we should find those who complain of all 3 injuries, or sorry, all 3 problems, all 3 disorders. Those who had all the 3 problems, okay, who complain of all the 3 issues. All right, so what do? We know that we have to add everything, what we see here to what we see here, to this, to this, to this, to this, to that. Then we equate to the total. But we are seeing AB, AC, and then others. So how can we solve X? If everything had been X, we could have easily solved for it. But over here, we have A, B, C, and X. Don't worry, it's very simple. Okay, very, very simple. Because if you remember, the question said those who complained of exactly 2 were 26. And we have used, let me clear my space. We have used A, B, and C to represent that 26. So though we have A, B, C, and then X, which will make solving very difficult, but actually it's not difficult, because the A, B, and C is definitely going to be changed to 26, because 26 complain of all the three. 26 complain of all the three problems, or all the three disorders, meaning wherever we see A, B, and C, A plus B plus C, we are supposed to equate that to 26. All right, so let's get going. So we have 100 minus A minus B minus X plus B plus X plus A plus C plus 80 minus B minus C minus X plus 50 minus A minus C minus X equals 200. What are we doing here? We are adding everything just like we do all the time. So we add this to this to this to that to this to this to that, then we equate to 200. We are adding everything within the circles and equate to 200. If we had got a complement, we would have added the complement to it, but because there is no complement, it is 0, so we ignore that part. What makes the complement 0? The question said each one complain of at least one, meaning no complement, or complement is 0. All right, so let's move on. So now that we have identified the individual items, you have added all of them, equated to 200, we begin to solve. All right, so we see if there are others that can cancel out. So I can see I have a negative B here, I have a positive B here, they can cancel. All right, I have a negative A here, then I have a positive A here, they can cancel. I have a positive C here, have a negative C here, they can also cancel. Right, so that is that. And then I have a negative X here, which can also cancel a positive X here. So I'll be left with 100 plus 80 minus B minus X. So 100 plus 80 minus B minus X plus 50 minus A minus C minus another X, and that should be equal to 200. So after cancelling out, this is what we are left with: 100 plus 80 minus B minus X plus 50 minus A minus C minus X, which is equal to 200, which we can group like terms. All right, so after cancelling, this is what we have. We have 100 plus 80 plus 50. So I have grouped like terms over here. So 100 plus 80 plus 50 minus A. So this is my minus A, minus B, which is here, not cancelled, minus C, it is here, not cancelled, minus 2x. Okay, why 2x? I have negative X here, then I have another negative X. So negative X minus X is going to be negative 2x, which is why I have minus 2x here. That should be equated to the universal, which is 200. All right, so now I have 100 plus 80 plus 50, okay, which will give me 230. Then my minus A minus B minus C minus 2x, I can see them here, equals 200. All right, so now what can we do here? We can group like terms. What are we looking for? We are looking for X, so we make X the subject. So negative 2x stands as one side, preferably the left hand side. Then we send the rest to the right hand side. So we will get negative 2x equals 200 minus 230 plus a, because the a is going to cross the equal sign as it is said, minus b, same crossing equal sign as it is said, and then c crossing the equal sign as it is said, though it doesn't have legs to cross like my math teacher used to say. All right, so we have minus 2x equals 200 minus 230, that is 230 has crossed the equal sign, so it becomes negative. Minus a has crossed the equal sign, it becomes plus a. Minus b has crossed the equal sign, becomes plus b. And then minus c has also crossed the equal sign, becomes plus c. All right. So 200 minus 230 is going to be negative 30. So we have minus 2x is equal to negative 30 plus a plus b plus c. But just like we have already said, a plus b plus c, that is the exactly twos. Okay, a plus b plus c is 26 according to the question. A plus b plus c is 26 according to the question. So where we see a plus b plus c, we put 26, a kind of substitution. So I have negative 2x equals negative 30 plus a plus b plus c. So I replace the a plus b plus c using 26. I replace it with 26. So that's going to be negative 2x is equal to negative 2x is equal to negative 30 plus 26. That's how it's going to be, because wherever we see a plus b plus c, we should put 26. All right, so I have negative 2x equals negative 30 plus 26. So you see now the a, b, c's are gone. We are left with only x, which becomes very easy to find. So negative 2x is equal to negative 30 plus 26, which is going to be negative 4. So negative 2x is going to, negative 2x equals negative 4. We are looking for x, so we divide through by the coefficient of x. In this case, coefficient of x is what? Negative 2. Coefficient of x is negative 2. So we divide through by negative 2. Negative 2 will cancel negative 2. Negative 2 will cancel itself 1 into negative 4, 2. Okay, or negative cancels negative, and then 2 into itself, 1 into 4, 2. That is 2 over 1, which is the same as 2. So our x is 2. All right, meaning 2 patients or 2 people complained of all 3 disorders, had all the 3 problems. So our x is equal to 2 patients. All right, so going back to the question, how did the question put it? It says, how many patients had all 3 complaints? Okay, so we say, therefore 2 patients had all 3 complaints. 2 patients had all 3 complaints. All right, so that is this. Very, very simple as A, B, and C. Right, it's very simple. The only thing that makes it a little bit confusing is when you have A, B, and C in there trying to find X. The only thing is, make sure wherever you see A plus B plus C, you change it to 26. Not A minus B minus C, no. So if you see something like minus A minus B minus C, you don't just change this to 26, but then you make it minus A plus B plus C, because the negative will affect everything. Okay, so now you can have minus 26, because A plus B plus C is going to be 26, so you get minus 26. Now work fine. That is if you should have done it straight over here. It should have been minus into parenthesis A plus B plus C, so you get 230 minus 26 minus 2x equals 200, and that will also give you the same thing. I decided to group like terms before. All right, that being said, let's look at few other things. Something very simple, probability, which we have heard of it before. We have done it several times. Your teachers have done it a lot of times with you right from JHS till now, from Form 1, JHS 1 till now. You have been doing that. All right, so probability always has two things you have to identify. Why am I talking about probability? Because it's a very simple concept. I want you to understand something over here. Probability is always about two things, comparing two things. If a student is selected at random, what is the probability that he complained of malaria? So you see, we have mentioned malaria, but it says if a student is selected at random, we are talking about a class. So if you don't make reference to any other thing, we are talking about the class. So this means that if a student is selected at random from the class, what is the probability that he complained of malaria? So we have two things here, two references. If a student is chosen from the class, what is the probability that he complained of malaria? Right. So this is how it goes. We are making reference to two items. Mind you, two items. You are only dealing with those two items the question has mentioned. The question is making reference to. So probability that the student selected from the class complained of malaria, meaning we are using class and then malaria. Now, the class, what is the total number of the people in the class? We are saying that total number of people in the class is what? 200, as you have already seen. Then those who complained of malaria, they are 100. Okay, you can go back to the question to check. Those who complained of malaria, they are 100. So we know that probability is always a fraction, okay, which can be changed to decimal, of course. So which one becomes our numerator and which one becomes our denominator? The total is the class. The probability that a student selected from the class. We are selecting the student from the class, so the total is the class. Over here, the total is the class. And then the sample is the malaria. So always it is the sample over the total. What we are selecting over the total. So we are selecting malaria from the class. So it's going to be number of people who complain of malaria over number of people in the class. So that's going to be, the probability is going to be number of people who complained of malaria over number of people in the class. We are saying U is representing that, right? Okay. So that being said, what is the number of people in the class? That is 200. And then how many complain of malaria? That is 100. So we can cancel out The 2 zeros will cancel out. You are left with 1 over 2, half, meaning half of the class complained of malaria. 100 out of 200, that is half. So half of the students complained of malaria. So the probability that a student chosen at random from the class complained of malaria is 1 over 2, half of it. All right. Now, what if the question said, if a student is selected at random? Okay, to make this simple, let me go back to our Venn diagram, the complete Venn diagram. All right, so we have it here. If a student is selected from those who complained of malaria, listen to this very well. If a student is selected from those who complained of malaria, what is the probability that he complained of all 3 disorders? What is the probability that he had all 3 complaints? What's the probability that he complained of all 3 problems? I'm coming again. If a student is selected at random from those who complain of malaria, so the student is being chosen from those who complain of malaria. So over here, our total is going to be the malaria, not the universal again, not the 200 again. Our universal is not going to be our total. It's going to be those who complain of malaria. The question is saying, if a student is chosen from those who complain of malaria, what is the probability that he complained of all 3 disorders? So over here, we are dividing those who complain of all 3 by those who complain of malaria. Okay, so that's going to be 2. Excuse me, let me clear it a little. That's going to be 2 because you have seen our x, that is those who complain or who had all 3 complaints, to be 2 over 100, that is those who complain of malaria. So 2 into itself, 1 into 100, 50. So that's going to be 1 on 50, 1 over 50. All right, so always bear in mind that you use the references given. You don't just divide by the total. No, you divide by total if the reference is to the total, but then if the reference is to a different thing, you divide by that thing. So similarly, if a student is chosen at random from the class, so I've mentioned class, meaning we are dividing by the class, what is the probability that he complained of exactly 2? And we are saying exactly 2 is what? 26. So he complained of exactly 2, but we are saying chosen from the class, that is going to be over 200. Okay, all right. So that is how it goes. Always, that is why I am talking about the probability. Always look out for the 2 references. If the question doesn't make reference to the other one, it means it is in reference to the whole class. If a student is chosen at random, what is the probability that, or we are talking about patients, so let me stick to patients. If a patient is selected as random, what is the probability that he complained of toothache? Or what is the probability that he had toothache? You see, we have made reference to only one thing, toothache. But then there is an indirect reference to the class. If a patient is selected at random from what? It has not been given. So it is to be assumed or to be understood that we are talking about the total. If a patient is selected at random without reference, meaning it is always the total, what is the probability that he complained of toothache? And that is going to be 80 over 200. 0 cancels 0, and then 8, a number that can cancel 8, and then 20. Okay, that's going to be 4. 4 to 8, and 4, 5, 20. So it's going to be 2 on 5. Right, so this is why I decided to talk about probability in brief. Alright, so this brings us to the end of 3 sets problem. The question, you can see, was very simple, right? So I would advise you try it again. After you have watched the video, try it again. What we are saying is that wherever you see A plus B plus C, it's supposed to be 26. But it's also important to identify where the 26 will be. The 26 is for exactly 2. You don't put it in all the 3 regions, but then you let alphabets represent those 3 regions. You add them and you equate to 26, because exactly 2 is 26. If the question asks you how many complain of exactly 2, you pick all the 3 regions for exactly 2, you add them. So it's the same thing. Over here, the question has already given you the figure. You have to put variables in there, then you add. Don't put the 26 in all 3 regions. Alright, so all the very best. Thank you for your time throughout the journey of 3 sets problem. All the very best. Enjoy your lesson. Enjoy the rest of the lessons. Okay, enjoy the rest of the lessons. So like I said, I will try to link lesson 1 and lesson 2 in the description, so you can check anytime. If you have any issue, you can just go and check lesson 1 and lesson 2, which will help you a lot. So I bring another lesson to your doorsteps. Bye bye.